Good morning, everyone. It is the 10 o'clock hour. It is Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessment and taxing districts for which said board so acts is now meeting in regular session. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. So at this time, Kylie, would you take the roll?
Supervisor Howard?
Here.
Supervisor Cowan?
Here.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Here.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Here.
Chair Hemmingson?
Here. Now we're going to take a moment of reflection. Now, if you will all please stand. Bob, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to have introduction of new employees. Are there any? Okay, seeing no new employees. County Council, actions from closed session?
No reportable action.
Okay, at this time I would request any deletions, corrections, or addition from board members to the agenda. In order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention of the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Are there any such items? Seeing none, we will move on to receive brief reports and announcements, starting with Supervisor Berkowitz.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisors Cowan, Hemmingson, and I attended a ceremony commemorating the College of the Redwoods partnership with Humboldt State University on the LVN to RN nursing program. Senator McGuire was the moderator with guests featuring the president of HSU, Tom Jackson, along with the president of CR, Keith Framer, and Mitch Hanna, the CEO of Center Coast Hospital. Once students obtain their RN, the students will be able to enter HSU's Bachelor of Science and Nursing program. This program is designed to address the nursing shortages in Del Norte and Humboldt counties. Last week, I attended the Realtors Forum, where the candidates for county supervisor from District 1, 2, and 5 gave their opinions on how the county could solve its problems facing the area. One last item. In 2011, Congress did away with earmarks, those budget items that each congressman could put into the appropriation bills. Now it seems like Congress has bipartisan support to bring back earmarks in a different form that would allow committee chairmen to direct federal pots of money to pet projects. Peter DeVazio is the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee of the House of Representatives, and he's on record as supporting the funding for the last chance grade projects. His support will be critical in getting a timeline for completion of this vital roadway reduced. And we should watch this progress, or watch the progress of this successor to earmarks very closely, because it may have a very positive effect on the projects that are so dear to our heart. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to report out first on the California State Association of Counties meeting I went to two weeks ago. I'm happy to report back to the board that CSAC, who hasn't had a policy since their initiation, chose to bring up HR 5038, as you recall, the Farm Worker Labor Act, as a top priority in their legislative platform for 2020. And we'll be sending direction to Paragon, our lobbyist in Washington, D.C., through the association, which proposed unanimous support for H.R. 5038 as a means to resolving some of the immigration issues that we've seen throughout the United States, but specific to farm labor workforce shortages. Also, a great deal of discussion was had under the governor's new initiative around the California Master Plan for Aging. Kim McCoy-Wade, who is there and present, sought input from county supervisors on the long-term service and support plans. The plan they hope to address over the next 10-year period on how to address the aging population of Californians. Also, we discussed a resiliency bond that we could potentially support for the coming legislative period, and also delved into a policy review committee discussion around a few natural resource issues. I had a Solid Waste Authority meeting where we addressed once again some movement that we understand is going to be supported by Senator Brian Daly, who's I think District 2, basically from Siskiyou, Modoc County south past Redding, almost to Sacramento. Brian will be leading some hopeful attack on SB 1383, which is an organics waste policy that is now being rolled out through the Cal Recycle program that has a great deal of impacts on small rural that does not have the ability to provide the infrastructure at this time to enact those policies, and hopefully have some exemptions roll forward in the legislation that he hopes to propose. Also, a great deal of discussion with Jay and Tony around some CDBG planning grant opportunities and whether or not those could take place. Appreciate their time in those discussions around there. Also attended a Resource Conservation District meeting in Smith River where we addressed a lot of elk and geese issues that are taking place and the proposals before the Fish and Game Commission that this board already took action on. Attended a Building Healthy Communities meeting called by Geneva Wiki to discuss her program Beyond BHC. BHC has decided to stay in this community and many other communities in the coming years, and how some of their focus in the coming years might revolve around some issues that we're having in our schools in particular. As many of you know, there's been quite a bit of crisis around school behavior and also teacher salaries that has really driven a lot of negative conversation in our communities over the last several months, and resolution needs to take place. And although our leadership and the city's leadership and maybe the harbor's leadership hasn't participated in these conversations, I think when it comes to children, we're all in this together to ensure that outcomes are best for them. And we need to find ways to push aside our differences and come to resolution to best serve our children's needs. I'm not sure exactly how that gets done, but I'm glad BHC is using it as a conversation point and a leverage point to help participate in those discussions and bring other leadership in to help resolve the issue. Also attended this week's the Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery Derby, put on by the Rowdy Creek Fish Hatchery Board, and particularly the Tolowa Dene Nation that's been involved in that program now for many years. It's a very successful derby where they had to turn away teams, 5 teams this year, because they didn't have enough guides to participate in all the teams that wanted to come out and fish. Great time both on the Chetco and the Smith. A lot of hatchery fish were caught on both rivers. The program has been a great success. We did honor at the time Kevin Brock, who's been a guide on our river for many, many years, has come down with some illnesses that have almost bankrupted him, unfortunately. But the Derby showed him a great deal of respect and support, trying to fundraise for him. Both Supervisor Hemmingson and I went to Eureka yesterday and met with Caltrans, EPIC, and Friends of Del Norte and Senator McGuire staff on trying to resolve some long-standing issues around litigation on Highway 199, 197, which has been impacting us for the last 12 years, in hopes that we could continue to move discussions forward and seek resolution outside the courts, and we'll continue to work on that together. Also met with Erica Partee from the Toloadini Nation on a matter that is on our agenda today, specific to counting fish through the Ditson units on the Smith River. This is an important management tool for the Department of Fish and Wildlife that looks at returning salmonids into our river. If they're able to secure the grant that would purchase these units, I think it would be an important tool in helping to better manage our fishery here on the Smith River. Also met with Senator McGuire and Rebecca Washburg, his chief of staff, on several issues around our jails and hoping to move some conversations forward. As you may or may not be aware, we've been denied for the last several years on obtaining grants to improve our jails and the infrastructures over there at the Sheriff's Department. And Senator McGuire and Rebecca are completely interested in why the county has had such a tough time gathering the funds necessary to improve our jail infrastructure and doing a lot of research now to get that back on track. Hope to work with them and our board staff to move those processes forward here in the near future. Attended the candidates forum that Supervisor Berkowitz had mentioned, that also Supervisor Cowan was at. I do want to bring up that there was some things mentioned specific to last chance grade at that meeting. And although I do appreciate being singled out as one of the leaders specific to the last chance grade movement, let it be known that this is not just something Chris Howard as a Board of Supervisor does. The efforts around last chance grade and our attention that we've received not only from the feds but also the state has been a long and ongoing process where many leaders in this community have had a voice in bringing attention to this issue. I don't like being singled out in this, although appreciated. At the same time, it must be recognized that there have been many leaders in our community that have played an important role in bringing attention to this grade and the $50 million to it to get this project moving forward at a much expedited pace. So I want to thank those people and ensure that we share in the success that I hope we all have soon on last chance grade. I wanted to express some birthday wishes to Sharon McKinney this morning. Happy birthday. I think that's great. You're one of our true supporters here that continue to show up at our meetings every day. I did spend quite a bit of time, as I discussed with Supervisor Hemmingson yesterday, with Larry Deepy on the continuing situations at Timbers Road and Highway 101 at the Dollar General location. We had a significant accident there last Thursday, two at the same time, that left some people in critical condition in hospitals down in Davis and Sacramento area with massive pelvic reconstruction surgeries and concussions. Their friends, I hope they get through their traumas. But as many of you are aware, our Planning Commission tried to address these issues to have a turn lane within that specific area, and Caltrans specifically said it's not needed. Well, since that Dollar General has gone in, our accident rates have gone up tremendously at that location. And Larry Deepy is working very closely with us to try to determine exactly the number of crashes that have taken place in the last year and a half, both hit and runs, and then also the fatalities and the vehicle-to-vehicle incidents. And I hope to get some movement with Caltrans soon at that location. And the last point, Chairman, I'll bring up is that I spent a great deal of time with Gary Bradford, supervisors from Yuba City, on two items, but the one I will bring forward is Yuba spent about 5 months crafting a camping ordinance that would be able to go through the scrutiny potentially of litigation specific to the 9th District Court ruling. I'm hoping the language in that ordinance can help Del County craft their ordinance and move us forward in the future, as I know this is a particular concern to our board. And that's the end of my report.
Yes, thank you. And I had mentioned to council about that, but told her the wrong county, so Yuba County, not Colusa County. Supervisor Gitlin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Citizens Advisory Committee for Pelican Bay State Prison, which meets every other month, met last week, and inmate population is, as we speak, as of February 11th, is 2634, and capacity at Pelican Bay is 2831. We heard a presentation on College of the Redwoods Pelican Bay Scholars Program This is a program CR initiated in 2015 and now has 300 students from Pelican Bay enrolled in one of at least 40 course offerings. Meanwhile, the off-reservation program at Pelican Bay State Prison continues to grow. Additional products are planned, allowing fire crews and level 1 inmates into the community to help improve the quality of life in our community and keep the community pristine. Last week, I attended the annual Del Norte County Sheriff's Awards presentation. Thank you very much, Sheriff Apperson. Recognizing not just deputies, but additional staff, members of the community who've contributed selflessly, and not just for heroic actions, but for just actions beyond and above the call of duty. And those members that were recognized in the community are highly esteemed, and recognition is very much due them. I participated in a teleconferencing meeting from UCLA on the challenges facing our community on those who are aging. And this is the fastest growing demographic, not just in our county, but throughout the state and the nation. Simply stated, we're living longer. According to the United Nations, by the year 2050, 1 in 6 adults on Earth will be 65 years of age or above. The number of people at least 80 is expected to triple. And in the Golden State, older adults expected to grow 8.6 million over the next decade by the year 2030. The discussion addressed housing, medical, recreational, and even employment needs for this fast-growing demographic group in California. And the Temple Street cleanup, which we're finishing up, thank you again to our Building and Maintenance Department and Code Enforcement. There's additional work. We're planning a Take a Bite Out of Blight cleanup on Saturday, February 29th. That's been postponed 1 week, and that will report on Saturday, March the 7th at 9 a.m. Volunteers are needed to help pick up the additional trash in that very beautiful area, and that is my report.
Vice Chair Cowan.
Thank you, Chairman Hemmingson. I attended a juvenile justice meeting after the last meeting we had here. We had a Visitors Bureau meeting, which we went over again all the numbers that in the presentation that Lynette gave our board at our last meeting. I participated in the Board of Realtors Forum, as already spoken about. We had a solid waste meeting, and Supervisor Howard went through all that. We are facing some challenges. We seem to always be facing challenges as a rural community and what is expected of us from the state of California. It's good to have voices that share our concerns and highlight our concerns up here that we as a rural county cannot do most of the mandated legislation that comes down. I also attended the conference, as was talked about, with Senator McGuire, and I want to point out Sutter Coast Hospital played a huge part in this. Mitch Hanna came to me about 3 years ago, and sitting down with him and CR, Rory, Dr. Flamer, and starting that conversation was huge. And from that, they brought everybody together. There's so many people involved to make this happen. And to have the RN program back in our community it's huge. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. So I was very honored to be part of that and be there on Saturday and have everybody acknowledged. We do need to grow our workforce here. In all areas. I'm happy to say that the Health Career Pathways over at the high school is in its 2nd year and has 2 classes now. That also will feed into it. Sutter gave $200,000 on Saturday to that program. Again, very grateful for them to contribute back what they can. And it's, we keep moving forward, and we all have to work together. We're all here together, guys. And so to see Sutter, College of the Redwoods, and HSU come together and make this work, and all of those around that who have worked so hard on it over the past few years, it was really good to see. It was a good celebration. And that's it for me.
Thank you. I had a few things going on the last couple of weeks. I did a gender review, met with Monty Mendenhall from Pacific Power, and his last week will be towards the end of this week. Will no longer be our representative for this area, and his replacement, and I'm sorry, her name's Christina, but I don't remember what her last name is. Very nice. Matter of fact, we got her to maybe help us a little bit on a project that we're doing at the lighthouse, so hopefully that is getting taken care of. I was happy to try to persuade them into doing that, and it looks like they're going to. Went to Sacramento to an RCRC meeting, executive meeting. This is my first executive meeting that I've been involved with since being elected to the executive committee of both RCRC and GSFA, which is the Golden State Finance Authority. Some exciting things that are coming up through RCRC and the GSFA, and hopefully we'll be able to announce those things moving forward with that. Executive committee meeting basically sets the agenda for the regular RCRC meeting, and we discuss other internal things. It's pretty interesting. I'm just getting my feet wet with it, so more to come with that. As Supervisor Howard probably mentioned, we had a Natural Resources Goal Committee meeting where we approved to go forward, or at least recommend that we go forward with a partnering with Smith River Alliance on their Fisheries Restoration Grant Program proposal. So we're moving forward with that. That's has to do with Elk Valley Road planning and design for some culvert work on Elk Valley Road. We also had a very short discussion on some of the elk issues. As was mentioned, at College of the Redwoods, Senator McGuire and the president of HSU and the president of CR and Mitch Hanna from Sutter Health, as Supervisor Cowan mentioned, who I think she was one of those people that helped with the process, and she should get a little credit for that. Others are trying to take credit for it, and those people that were involved with this really important program for Del Norte County, I think it was a great thing. It was a great program to be at. Was very happy to be there, and great to see all the kids, and Jesse Alvarado, who is going to be the first LVN to RN hopefully graduate that we have. So really nice to hear his story and all the other stories that came out of that. As Supervisor Howard said, went down to Eureka at Caltrans to try to get some sort of resolution to the 199-197 project. We're making headway, I think, and those meetings will continue, and we'll keep moving on. It's nice to hear from Supervisor Howard from the CSAC perspective. I'm assuming that he's meeting with funding for the jail, because I'm doing it from the RCRC perspective, and was not aware that he was pushing Senator McGuire, because I've been pushing, and maybe we should collaborate a little bit and work, maybe push that from both sides. But I've been working on that for some time now, and should be getting some answers back. The Dollar General issue on the highway, that's another thing that's really important. There's not just there, but there's no turn pocket for Wonder Stump, and there's no turn pocket for some other Denny Road, I think. There's some turn pockets that need to be put in, I think, on 101, just because that traffic moves very quickly, and all of a sudden you'll come upon a string of traffic that's backed up just because one person's wanting to turn. And so I think we're going to keep that discussion going. I'm going down to the North Deal meeting tomorrow, and we'll certainly bring that up again, as well as some other issues. Okay, so that is it for brief reports. We're going to move on to the public comment period. It is 10:25. We're going to move to the public comment period.
My name is Tony Jager. I'm a member of this community for about 23 years. I was here about 8 months ago, and I brought up the idea of raising money or bringing money into the sheriff's department. I brought a case to them a few years back. It took over 2 years and 3 months for it to go to the DA. The reason being is that they had not experienced this particular type of case, and they weren't quite sure how to get around dealing with it. Also, they're understaffed because they're underfunded, and I don't think that's acceptable. I know that the powers that be, whoever the powers may be, when they want money or when they want something done, they get it done, they get the money. If things need to be changed to get the money, then it needs to be changed, because I believe that safety in our community and when people bring cases to the sheriff's department need to be addressed in a timely manner and not delayed. And if there isn't the experience for a particular case, or there's questions, bring in somebody, have the funds to bring in somebody who is experienced. Because I find it utterly unacceptable how long it took for my case to get to the DA. And I find it very unacceptable that the sheriff's department is understaffed and underfunded. I'm really upset about it. And what can be done? I asked that question last time, I got no answer. Has it been discussed since I was here last? Is there any plans to do anything about it? Because this has been going on for years, and I've been told that there isn't the money, and when people come from the academy and they come to the sheriff's department, they're here for about a year, they get the experience, and they go somewhere else, whether it's to the prison, to the UROC down in Klamath, to Brookings, and because they're getting paid more. I think that Crescent City, Del Norte County, deserves a lot better than what they've been getting. And I'm willing to pay a sheriff's tax if that's what it takes, because the case that I brought to them, I'm still dealing with, and it has not been finished being dealt with yet, and I'm not satisfied. And I'm not satisfied that people who put their life on the line are underpaid, understaffed, and overworked. It's just not acceptable. I would like to see something done about it. If there's anything I can do, I'm willing to do whatever I can do. And if it's pay a tax, I'll pay the tax, because I'm really serious.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment?
Good morning. For you that don't know me, my name is Ryan Ray. I'm a council member for the Yurok tribe. We have submitted a letter regarding Hunter Creek Park. This is just to get one thing clear. This is totally a community-driven agenda item, and my goal was kind of a little frustrated with my staff for not getting me on the agenda for today, because we've been through this before with the ball field, and I know the process. And my timeline is April 5th is when I have the crew on the ground ready to install. We have a playground sitting in our fish plant right now that we're looking to install on April 5th. We're going to install it somewhere, right? But it's a really big playground, and we would like to install it there if we can make this happen. So I needed to be on the agenda for today to really start that process, and then for the 10th to come around, I'm needing to really know if I can move forward by the 20th of March. So if we can't, I need to redirect the crew to a different site. So that's really, I just wanted to come today to kind of lay out the timeline. If this is something, I know I talked about it about a year ago. We kind of talked about it then. There was maybe a grant being submitted at that time. I don't know how that's going. I know we've been successful with the ball field in that process. We've applied for 3 grants. Now we're waiting on to hear back on the 3rd one. We've actually started a Little League down there this year, so we have about 35 kids down there to be transported into town, so it's a good deal. So I just wanted to come here today and kind of give you the heads up, maybe get a head nod so I can keep pursuing this agenda item to see if maybe there is a possibility of a transfer. It's not about the land. It's not about the transfer to the tribe. Believe me, it's you guys have been there, and it's probably a headache. I don't hate to say that, but we're willing to take that on. We're willing to install a playground. If I think the best thing we can do as a tribal leader, as governments, is identify a problem and do our best to find a solution. And I'm here today just to present a solution to this ongoing problem that is the Hunter Creek Park. Thank you.
Great, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Appreciate what you're doing. Any other public comment? Okay, thank you. We're going to close the public comment period, and we're going to move on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any public comment on consent agenda items only? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, would you poll the vote, please?
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard? Yes. Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so now we will move on to legislative and budget issues. Jay, you're going to move on with the mid-year budget?
Yes. Before the board is a summary and discussion over where we are at this point based on projections submitted by the individual departments. We have had a couple of meetings with departments to go over some discrepancies that were noted by the budget team. They were very minor, and actually one was very positive. It was in the district attorney's office, there was additional revenue noted in regards to Pelican Bay reimbursement, and it was discussing how that funding may support them in regards to some of their needs. Obviously, at this point, this is a mid-year report. It's not a change in any budget line items. There's no request being made. So it was more of a discussion over process with that department. Most of the departments have come in under budget at this point, which is relatively typical to mid-year. We don't know until later in the year when some revenue comes in that is, I don't want to call it subjective, but it is not set at a certain number, so it's projected out. So at this point, under the current 19-20 year, we're looking to be at budget or below it. As you know, we utilize a fund balance to assist with balancing the next year's budget, and we'll start that process in April. One of the other revenues that we'll be interested in will be when the rolls turned over to see what may have increased in regards to property taxes related to increased values in the county. As you know, we get a percentage of each dollar that comes in, so it's not a dollar for dollar situation, but any increases help assist with that annual increase of $500,000 a year that we pay to the state for their unfunded liability under PERS. Overall, the departments look to be in fairly good shape at mid-year, and we don't have any recommendations at this time to make changes to those budgets. So as is typical, we request that you receive and file the mid-year budget report as submitted by myself and the auditor controller, and direct departments to maintain revenue and expenditures as estimated in the mid-year budget report and continue to work on solutions to reduce net county cost. At this point, if there are any questions, I'll take those.
Any questions from board members? Do you need a motion for this, Jay? Just consensus? Okay, any public comment on our mid-year budget report? Anybody got any statements? Okay. Continue on, direction to do so.
I will note that, there was the comment from the lady regarding the sheriff's office. They are fully budgeted for the year. I don't know the specific issue, and we could discuss that with the sheriff's office at some point as to what that might be. But in general, they are under budget at this point, typically based on recruitment and retention. So their salary savings is under, but they are fully funded, and I think that there could be some discussion at the next budget meeting or budget hearings to better explain to the public how that works and what that funding does on an annual basis, because there may be some misunderstanding of how these budgeted funds are used.
Okay.
We can clear that up at those times.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our final item, item number 14, approve and authorize the chair to sign and send a letter of support for the grant proposal for the Ditson system. Jay, are you going to speak to that, or Supervisor Howard?
You
I'm
could
sorry.
have me take it if you want.
Yeah, I could, because if I would have read the whole thing, I would have said it. Got your name right on it.
Quite okay. As I discussed earlier in my board report, we were approached by the Tolowadini Nation. Erica Partiz with us today in the audience. She could give us some more details during the public comment of that. But at the Resource Conservation District. The Resource Conservation District has been nagging now for quite some time, about the last 3 years, for some form of fish counts like the county used to contract for to take place again in the Smith River. Fortunately for us, the Tolowadini Nation and their fisheries program has considered this as a potential opportunity to go out and try to find enough dollars to purchase the Ditson units so we could actually have them here in our community permanently, as the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, who has several of these, do not want to loan these out and start the counting program again, which after talking with a lot of folks this last weekend during the fishing derby, we all believe this is for the best in helping to manage our fisheries populations of the Smith River. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would also like to correct a minor mistake in the current letter, and that is in the first paragraph. We would remove the California Department of Fish and Wildlife as the administrator, because I believe the grant is directly with National Oceanics Atmospheric Administration. And so if we could remove that, Kylie, that would be helpful, and any other reference to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife in that letter. That's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is that a motion?
I would make that motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back. Any further discussion? Kylie, would you poll the vote, please?
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Thank you. Kylie, do we have everything? Good to go. With that, we are adjourned. Next meeting is March the 10th.